Have you ever been in a situation where you met someone amazing, but you didn't know how to describe exactly what was happening between you? Or maybe you had a massive argument with a friend, and you struggled to find the right words to explain how you fixed it later. Relationships are the core of our lives, but the English vocabulary we use to describe them is full of subtle nuances. It's not just about love or hate. Today, we are going deep into the real, natural phrasing that native speakers use to describe everything from that first spark of romance to the messy arguments and finally, the reconciliation. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact words to tell your own life stories. Intro. Hello everyone and welcome back. I am so glad you are here today because we are tackling a topic that literally everyone has in common: human connections. Whether we are talking about romance, family, or just the people we see on the train every morning, we need specific language to describe how we relate to them. We are going to move beyond the textbook definitions. We are going to look at the phrasal verbs and expressions that paint the real picture of how people interact. We'll look at dating, friendships, and even how we judge character. Part 1. The beginning of romance. Got together. Let's start with the fun part. How do relationships actually begin? You might know the phrase start a relationship, which is fine, but it sounds a bit formal, doesn't it? It sounds like a contract. In casual, everyday English, when two people move from being just friends or acquaintances to being a romantic couple, we use the phrase got together.
It's such a soft, natural phrase. I got together with Leo. What I love about this phrase is that it implies a story. It implies a process. It didn't just happen in 1 second. Maybe there was texting, maybe there was talking, maybe there was a long friendship beforehand. Let me give you an example. I remember my cousin and her now husband. For years, they were strictly just friends. We all looked at them and thought, come on, it's never going to happen. They were firmly in the friend zone. Then they went on a hiking trip with a group of mutual friends. Something about the fresh air or the long walk changed the dynamic. When they came back, they were holding hands. We were all shocked. We asked, when did this happen? And she just smiled and said, well, I guess we finally got together. You hear this all the time in gossip or updates. Did you hear Lucy and Ryan got together? It covers that magical transition moment. Part 2. The undefined stage. Seeing each other. But what about that stage before you get together officially? You know, that confusing time where you are going on dates, you like the person, but you haven't put a label on it, you aren't calling them your boyfriend or girlfriend yet. If you search for common phrasal verbs you need to know on the internet, you will almost always find this one because it is essential for modern dating. The phrase is seeing each other.
This is the perfect low-pressure phrase. If someone asks you, are you single? And you are dating someone but it's not official, you don't want to say, yes, I'm single, but you can't say I'm in a relationship, so you say, I'm seeing someone at the moment. It implies regular contact. You're going to dinner, you're texting, you're getting to know each other. I had a friend a few years back who was asked about his status at a lunch party. He didn't want to give details or names, he just smiled and said, I'm seeing someone. It communicated everything it needed to. I am occupied romantically, but it's private and it's new. However, seeing each other doesn't always guarantee a happy ending. I once saw someone for a few weeks. We had great chemistry, great dates, but eventually it just fizzled out. We were seeing each other, but we never got together officially. It covers that space between friendship and commitment. Part 3. Conflict and arguments. Falling out. Now, life isn't always romance and coffee dates. Sometimes things go wrong. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendly, hit bumps in the road. When you have a serious argument with someone to the point where the relationship is damaged or you stop speaking, we call this a falling out. Or we say, we fell out. This is much heavier than just we argued. You can argue about what pizza to order, and 5 minutes later you are fine. That is not a falling out. A falling out implies a break in the connection.
I actually fell out with a close friend back in university. It's a classic story. We were working on a group project together.
I did all the work, he disappeared. He didn't answer texts, didn't show up to meetings. The stress piled up and eventually I exploded. I told him exactly how irresponsible he was being. We fell out. We didn't speak for almost a year. The trust was broken. A falling out can happen over big things like betrayal or money, like if a friend expects you to pay for a trip they canceled, or it can be a series of small misunderstandings that just build up until you snap. It leaves a cold distance between two people. Part 4. The repair. Make it up. The beautiful thing about relationships, though, is that they are resilient. Just because you fall out doesn't mean it's over forever. Often we want to fix things, but saying sorry sometimes isn't enough. You need to do something to balance the scales. This brings us to the phrase, make it up to someone. To make it up to someone means you acknowledge you made a mistake and you are going to take action to repair the damage. You are paying off a debt of kindness. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture like buying a car. It can be small. For instance, I once completely forgot a friend's dance show. It was a huge deal for her, and I just totally blanked on the date. She was hurt, obviously. I felt terrible. So the next day, I didn't just text, sorry. I went to her house with her favorite coffee and some chocolate, and I sat down and said, I am so incredibly sorry. Please let me make it up to you. It shows effort. It shows that you value the person more than your pride. And usually when people see that effort, they are willing to forgive. It bridges the gap that the falling out created. Part 5. The hierarchy of friendship. Now let's shift gears away from drama and look at the structure of our social circles. In English, we have very specific ways to distinguish between the different levels of people in our lives. Not everyone is a friend. Level 1. The casual acquaintance. This is the outer circle. An acquaintance is someone you know, but you don't really know. Think about the person you see at the gym every Tuesday. You nod, maybe you say, have a good workout, but you don't know their middle name. You don't know if they have siblings. I used to have a train acquaintance. We saw each other every morning for a year. We smiled, we said good morning, but if I never saw him again, my life wouldn't change. That is a casual acquaintance. Level 2. The good friend. Moving closer to the center, we have the good friend. This is someone you actually hang out with. You enjoy their company. You trust them. Maybe you have friends from work or your local sports club. You go for coffee, you chat about your week, you laugh. You like them. But, and this is the key, you might not share your deepest, darkest secrets with them. You rely on them for fun and social support, but maybe not for life-altering crises. Level 3. The best friend. And then, right in the center, is the best friend. This is the person who knows where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking. This is the person you call at midnight. I still remember my best friend from high school, Jen. We had a tradition where we would call each other the second the clock struck midnight on our birthdays. It didn't matter where we were. Even now, years later, living in different countries, if I have a crisis, she's the first person I video chat with. Distance doesn't matter at this level. It's important to use these distinctions because if you call an acquaintance a best friend, it sounds desperate. And if you call a best friend an acquaintance, it sounds cold. Part 6. Respect and judgment. Look up or look down. Finally, let's talk about how we view the character of the people in our lives. We often view people vertically. We either place them above us in admiration or below us in judgment. There are 2 perfect phrasal verbs for this that you will see in almost any advanced English vocabulary for relationships guide. Looking up to someone. When you admire someone, respect them, or view them as a role model, you look up to them. This isn't about physical height, it's about moral height.
I really looked up to my uncle growing up. He was a firefighter. I used to sit and listen to his stories for hours. But it wasn't just the job, it was his calmness. He stayed cool under pressure. He was kind. He taught me so much about how to be a good person without ever actually giving me a lecture. I looked up to him. You can look up to a parent, a teacher, or even a colleague who handles stress well. It implies you want to be more like them. Looking down on someone. The opposite, and the much uglier side of human nature, is looking down on someone. This means you think you are better than them. You judge them, usually unfairly, based on superficial things like money, job status, or background. I was at a dinner party once, and I heard a guest making fun of a waiter for a small mistake. He was speaking to him like he was stupid. He was looking down on him. It made me feel physically uncomfortable. It says so much more about the person doing the judging than the person being judged. If you want to compliment someone's character, you can say, he treats everyone with respect. He never looks down on anyone.
So there we have it. We've journeyed through the life cycle of relationships today. We talked about getting together and that spark of new romance. We discussed the ambiguity of seeing each other. We looked at the pain of falling out and the effort required to make it up to someone. We categorized our social circle from acquaintances to best friends. And finally, we looked at how we view character by looking up to our heroes and refusing to look down on others. I hope this helps you navigate your own social world with more confidence in English. Relationships are complicated enough, your vocabulary shouldn't have to be. If you found this helpful and want to keep glowing up your English skills, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to English Glow so you never miss a lesson. I'll see you in the next video.